Part 3 of Big Wigs.
I typed up a letter to Darian telling him I knew what was going on and to leave Candy alone because he knew what could happen. I sent it to him in an envelope. I dropped it in my most covert 007 manner, then watched at a distance while he read it. He gave only a small reaction to it because he was at the office, but I could read between the lines, and he was sweating. Who wouldn't be if someone told you they knew where your bodies were buried? He cornered me in the break room. "So, I got this letter on my desk earlier," said Darian. "Oh yeah? What about?" I said, playing it cool, but internally my heart was picking up tempo. He knew. Of course he knew. Who the fuck else could it be? "Something about watching my back and staying away from Candy," he went on. "Oh, really?" "Yeah, really. I mean, some people are just losers, right? I mean, if a woman wants to see me, they want to see me. I can't help that I got it going on, right? Some people just need to get laid, am I right?" "Yeah, really," I said, but at this point I knew he was targeting that at me directly. "If people just focused on work, this office would be a much better place." "I know, right? If people act like they live here, what's next? People fucking in the break room?" I said, but instantly regretted it. I couldn't help myself. I had to punch this fucker in the nuts. Emotionally. "Yeah, I know, right?" He came back. At this point, he had no doubt. He knew, and I knew. "I really just came to ask you to stay a bit later so we can hash out some more ideas from the dead letter. Christmas is coming up, so we gotta have a lot of bullets in the chamber, you know," he said. At this point, I wasn't sure if I could trust him knowing I was alone in the office, and I hadn't stayed after hours ever since the incident, but if I was going to keep my life, I was going to have to risk my life. Besides, I had at least one trick up my sleeve. People began filing out of the office and packing it in for the day, though I was settling in for an all-nighter. Candy passed my cubicle. "You didn't text me back," she said. "Oh, I'm sorry, my phone ran out of juice." "Oh," was all she said. I looked at her eyes and she still had that look of yearning, as if she were lingering, waiting for something. Fuck it. You know, if this was it, fuck it. "You think that?" "Yeah," Candy cut in when she saw me wavering. "You think we could meet up outside of work? I mean, I really want to thank you for the sweater and all. It probably took you some real time," I said. I was shocked I didn't stammer through that sentence. I was so scared. Yeah, sure. That'll be good. I have to work tonight, but tomorrow?" Candy smiled. "Yeah, of course," she said. She began filing out with the others, but looked back to me before she completely slipped away. I was still smiling watching her leave, and she gave me that smile back. Maybe, just maybe, sometimes the little guy could win. I got to my work and moved to the dead letter office. I must admit, I was empowered with a new purpose now that I knew I had someone I really wanted to live for. Of course, the universe had other fucking ideas, right? Under the glow of the singular light, I toiled over dead letters, ideas abandoned and canceled because they weren't quite ready to express the correct emotions. The shadow moved, and a dark figure came into the room and brandished a gun. He shot me in the back. I know you didn't think it was one of those. He was a ghost telling the story the entire time stories. But here we are. It was Darian, a clear amateur in the murder game, just shot me and fucked off. Didn't confirm a kill, just went bang. And it's Miller time. His plan was just to have me laid out until the cleaning lady, Maria, wandered in here. The prick Darian skipped to work like nothing happened, and as soon as he got to the lobby, Jeanette, the receptionist, told him the shareholders were waiting for him. He was ready to ascend to whatever it was those gross hair monsters had next for him. Were they going to make him a CEO or turn him into them? Could they? Did it work like that? I didn't know. Or I don't know. I'm a ghost. My tense game is all fucked up. Darian made it to the top floor and the four bigwigs were dramatically lit like a tribunal of otherworldly creatures there to judge his mortal deeds. And technically they sorta were. Darian smiled because he knew that this was it. This was his promotion. But before he could get too cocky, I popped out from a shadow. Yup, surprise motherfucker, I wasn't dead. I knew he might try something, so I set up my coat to look like I was working. I planned to knock the shit out of the guy with a paperweight if he came to check on the body, but of course he didn't, so I went to plan B. I had my phone recording the entire thing just in case I needed to prove something to someone for later, and seeing I couldn't quite tell the cops the entire story, I knew just who I could. The corporate bigwigs' voices all jumbled together. They didn't leave much space for themselves to breathe before the next one spoke. This man levies a claim against you, Darian. You have to hear it. He claims that you disrespected the sanctity of the office again and shot the place up. Well, that's true, but not. Darian attempted to defend himself, but was cut off. We were not finished. He then claims you have begun your ways back at the office and are flirting with the intent to have dangerous liaisons with co-workers. Is this true? Yes and no, Darian began to say, but all the bigwig seemed to hear was yes. The four things' hair began to move with purpose. The eyes went white as if their bodies were puppets, and whatever that thing was on top of its head was calling the shots. The hair was massive in moments, bigger than their entire bodies. The strands looked like jagged wires. It snapped out, and one of them grabbed Darian and nearly enveloped him, but the other three snapped at him too, like a hungry hippo game, and ripped him apart in a feeding frenzy. I watched in horror. I had seen them from a distance, but now, up close, I don't know that I could ever get that out of my head. The four bigwigs looked over to me, and the massive strands of hair began to retract into their scalps. And when it got to human levels of hair, their eyes returned as if the human side of them was back in the driver's seat. The four of them hungrily eyed me. "Now what are we to do with you?" the four monsters all said in unison. The office was somber because Darian had unexpectedly moved to Phoenix for a promotion, and they had a big announcement, and who else but me was taking his spot? The bigwigs seemed to know my work, and they realized how much I loved the job, which may be the only reason I lived to tell this story. I disclosed that I did in fact have an interest in a female coworker, and they told me that they didn't really care so long as it didn't interfere with my work. But they did in fact care very much about keeping the numbers up. I did end up taking Candy out, and it's been going very good, though I have to live on a knife's edge for as long as I live, hoping that I never piss off those weird corporate monsters. So, in the end, I guess I'll never know if women only liked big shots, because technically I am. Well, until I fuck up.
I know, right? I myself am kinda like the Dwight of the office. You know, like a beloved douchebag that doesn't understand what he's saying. So I suppose the moral of this story is, if you can shut your mouth long enough, maybe you'll get a promotion if you don't tell on monsters. Or maybe I missed a point, I don't know. I am Pact, signing off.